Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there. Starting to get some feeling back in your fingers and toes? Yeah, good. That was a extraordinarily short cold snap. We're very lucky about that, huh? And I promise, just one more thing on the weather, and then I'll shut up. I think. I mean, regarding the weather, because God knows I ain't going to shut up. Good morning, by the way. It's the 8th of January. I always say that with some astonishment because I have no sense of time anymore. And what? Nothing. It's a Wednesday. So this is just a thing about weather and media. I thought it was so funny. For some reason last night, because I rarely watch CNN, too. CNN was on. Oh, I know. It was 10 p.m., and I was telling myself to get to bed early. So I was in my bedroom. I thought maybe there's some late-breaking news I should know about. I turn on the news at 10, and it's Anderson Cooper. And he's talking about the weather, and he went to a live shot with a very cold-looking woman. I think there was a cold-looking woman in Indianapolis or something. No, I don't know, Minnesota. And then to some woman in Buffalo. In case any of you watch the same thing, you would know. Anyway, so, and it was the one in Buffalo, because Buffalo was getting hammered. Not only were they getting this cold, but they were getting supposedly this huge snowfall. And he said to the frozen woman on camera, well, I've heard they've been saying that Buffalo could get as much as 3 feet of snow, or 4 feet. And then he said something about, and I've even heard people say 5 feet of snow. And that did get my attention, because 5 feet of snow is attention grabbing. And I turned to the television, and there was this reporter who said something to the effect of, well, Anderson, we've got 10 inches now. And I cracked up laughing. He was doing what media do in these cases. 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet of snow. And the reporter on the scene says, 10 inches. And then started making excuses for why apparently all of the reports of feet and feet of snow may have been a little premature because, turns out that lake effect snow, which we know about, winds coming off of, in our case, and Buffalo's case, is it Buffalo also Lake Erie? Picks up moisture and then dumps it on nearby locales. And the reporter said, well, you see, Anderson, Lake Erie is frozen. And because of the ice, the lake effect isn't, as much a factor. And so she essentially said that all the hysterical prognostications about feet were probably not correct. But there it was in a nutshell. And at least a minor acknowledgement that the earlier hysterical reports, 3, 4, 5 feet, were absurd. We're going to have an incredible cold and a lot of snow. There was something so wonderful about going from 5 feet to 10 inches, right like that. And then, of course, I don't know if it was her or one other reporter, starts doing this silly stuff. They're throwing water into the air and watching it become snow. They're taking out frozen T-shirts and watching them, like, turn into... And there was something sort of... I guess it's fun. Seems a little silly up to a point. And they become self-parodying, truly. It's cold. It's snowing. Shut up. Thank you. Okay. So the big scuttlebutt today is about, Robert Gates has a book out, a memoir. And Gates, who has served many, many presidents, I think 5. He's one of those go-to guys, one of those solid, wise, not particularly partisan people who just believes in government and believes that it should work in a professional manner. I've always had great respect for him, and I still do. I have no reason not to. But he has this book out, and and we're going to see more and more of these, where we're going to see behind the scenes in the Obama administration. And so Obama today is being ripped. Wiped. No, what's the verb when raked over the coals? Ripped? Raked? It's raked over the coals because of Gates, who was his defense secretary's suggestion that Obama lost faith in his own policy in Afghanistan and lost faith in his hand-picked commander. That would be a General Petraeus, as we remember. And I'm thinking, yeah, so what's wrong with that? I think that shows that he's able, unlike the president before him, who was known for his stick to it, his stubbornness, his refusal to think critically again about a decision made in the past. I think Obama was wise to lose faith in his plan and to think only of what Gates now accuses him of thinking, which is, get the hell out of here. Frankly, I think a lot of people who voted for him, and even people who did not, would be behind that effort. Get the hell out of here. So, whatever. I'm sure the media will be breathless, scouring through Gates' memoir for anything that can, in fact, cause trouble. Get people at each other. Because after all, that is what media do. Not that I ever learned that in journalism school, but that is what they do now. Oh. So, speaking of the war, and hearing And I can't believe I saw, am I hearing things? Am I having auditory hallucinations? I swear I've been hearing people thinking we're supposed to go back into Iraq. Did I dream that? I think I'm going back into Iraq. Look, Fallujah's falling to the Islamists. Ramadi. We can't get him back. Oh, my God. Do you know how many Americans died trying to take it just from Saddam's people? Well, you know what? I, for one, say enough. If they want to keep killing each other over Ramadi, go right ahead. The reality is, as the Islamists and Al-Qaeda folk take over Iraq now, that is not a reason for us to get back. That is a reason for us to stop and contemplate what running headstrong and head first into a war because certain people are scaring us and beating the drums is not necessarily a wise way to proceed. I actually was thinking last night, do you know if we had not gone to war in Iraq and Saddam Hussein were still there, that area of the world would be more stable than it is now? That, in fact, more people, including a lot of Americans, would be living their lives instead of lying 6 feet under the ground in military cemeteries? So, get back into Iraq? Are you kidding? We broke it. We failed to fix it. And frankly, I don't think we could, if we wanted to, take a second whack. So, given that, I thought, again, you know I do this, we should remind ourselves that Americans are still dying in these apparently interminable wars in a part of the world that seems to do nothing but fight each other, and a part of the world in which the other part of the world is continually mucking it up even more under the context of, here, let me help you with that. So, just to bring us up to date, the Department of Defense has identified 2,288 American service members who have died as a result of the Afghan war. These are the latest confirmed deaths. Jacob Hess, age 22, Sergeant Marine, Spokane, Washington. William K. Lacey, 38, Sergeant First Class Army, Laurel, Florida. Matthew R. Rodriguez, 19 years old, Lance Corporal, Marines. No hometown given. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Fairhaven, Massachusetts. James Smith, 38, Petty Officer First Class, Huffman, Texas. Randy Billings, 34, Chief Warrant Officer, Army, Heavener, Oklahoma. Peter Bowler, 29, Sergeant Army, Willow Spring, North Carolina. Omar Ford, 28, Sergeant First Class Army, Marietta, Georgia. Terry K. D. Gordon, 22, Specialist Army, Shibuya, Mississippi. Joshua Silverman, 35, Chief Warrant Officer, Scottsdale, Arizona. Jesse Williams, 30, Staff Sergeant Army, Elkhart, Indiana. And on it goes. We'll take a break.
For more with Lynn Cullen live after this.
Download the brand new CP Haps app and find out what's going on in Pittsburgh. It's the fun and free app that puts the most popular events at your fingertips. Text events to 77948 to download now and register to win tickets to the Jay-Z Magna Carta World Tour coming to the Consol Energy Center January 21st. The CP Haps app brought to you by Pittsburgh City Paper.
Chris, you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Am too.
There's your comic book collection, the race car bed.
I'm young at heart, but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I'm taking control over my financial life, and that feels pretty grown up to me.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free ideas and easy ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
Are those footy pajamas?
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
All righty, what we got? We have Russ. Lynn, I think it's hilarious that they send reporters out and everything from hurricanes and tornadoes to snow and ice storms and then plead for people not to go out. Because it's not safe. That is ironic, isn't it? Or hilarious, as you put it. It's very funny. You know, we didn't used to do that. We didn't, but it was that first report. Who was it Dan Rather? Some reporters have gotten the attention of the network and have then moved up because of, I think Rather did some really good reporting during a hurricane a long, long time ago when he was a young reporter. And I think that's how, so I think weather reporting, that kind of reporting that certainly keeps you glued to your set, waiting to see if the reporter actually is swept away by the crashing surf or blown away or, you know, electrocuted, whatever. I think, and I don't think he's the only one, I think there are others who have made a name for themselves by virtue of being the hilarious reporter out there. Now, there's a difference. I don't consider like Katrina a weather story. That was a story of so legitimately a news story, even before the hurricane struck, and then certainly in the aftermath. That wasn't about anything other than that human lives were being destroyed. So I have some good news. Do you believe that? I have good news. Well, it's, let's say, positive news. It's looking up news. It's the glass is half full news. And it's directed specifically at a group that are often down in the dumps. And many of you, I think, have membership in this group. It is a group of progressive/lefty types who wring your hands and tear your hair and beat your breasts and shake your heads in unbelievable frustration constantly by how little forward progress is being made and how Obama isn't doing what he should be doing and the Democrats are this and what's the point and blah, 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 right? Well, the reason I take this sort of uplifting piece and bring it to your attention is because it is from a writer who is certainly a regular on MSNBC, and is the, what do I want to say? She's the editor of Katrina vanden Heuvel. You know who I'm talking about? Katrina vanden Heuvel. She's more to the left than I. Is she with The Nation? Anyway, she is usually very, as I described before, head shaking, hand wringing, frustrated. And she's written a piece for the new year, which appeared in the Washington Post, and then appeared in Daily News Nuggets, which is how I got my hands on it. And she talks about, again, here we go, 2014, another year of gridlock and partisan posturing and just plain stupidity is probably what we're in for. Can we take another year of this? And then she says, you know what? I think that we're not going to see a year like the last year. I think there is a growing reality that if you don't pay attention to Washington, D.C., that outside that bubble known as inside the Beltway, the people out there in flyover land and elsewhere are starting to stir. She has noticed this. And she first suggests that one of the indicators would be the election of a out-and-out progressive, without a doubt, as mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio. And as soon as she said that, I thought, well, you've barely gone outside the Beltway, suggesting that New Yorkers electing a progressive Democrat is a big to-do that somehow has anything to do with the rest of the country, I think is stretching it a little bit, Katrina. But she then points out that it wasn't just New York, that in Los Angeles, a progressive was voted in as mayor, that in Boston, a progressive, in Seattle, a progressive, in Minneapolis, a progressive. But then again, I thought, so urban centers, none of those are particularly known for being conservative areas. And then I thought, and she could add to that list, Pittsburgh elected a clearly progressive mayor, right? So maybe she's onto something there, that cities, that the urban areas are definitely turning to progressives. And then she says this, and stop and think. The fact that both President Obama and His Holiness Pope Francis have both quite clearly put inequality, especially income inequality, front and center. Right? That's pretty good. That workers in 13 states, starting with the first of the year, are now enjoying an increase in the minimum wage. And then she starts cherry-picking other little things, but taken as a whole, provide reason for hope. In New Jersey, voters defied His Rotundness, Governor Christie, and passed an initiative there in New Jersey that raised the minimum wage by $1 an hour, but they also amended the state constitution to index the minimum wage to inflation. We know of the town in Washington, SeaTac, I think, that passed the $15 minimum wage law, which I guess now ended up stuck in the court situation. But you see this idea that it is well past time that those on the bottom rungs get lifted up to at least a level where they have a chance to live a dignified existence. She continues with reasons to be optimistic. New York and Portland, Oregon joined 4 other cities, who are not mentioned, in requiring employers to provide paid sick leave for workers. I got to tell you guys, this shows how totally uncivilized this country is, how mean it is. That is a given in every civilized nation in the world. That is a given. But we're starting an effort to catch up. Nancy Pelosi has said she will make paid family leave a centerpiece of the Democratic Party's 2014 platform. Again, something that every other so-called civilized nation has already. Vanden Heuvel sees the anger at conservative efforts to keep people from voting as something very real, as something that is growing and continuing to build and is spreading and can only help the progressive cause. As we've talked about many times, same-sex marriage continues on a roll. It is now legal in 18 states plus D.C., although I think we have to pull for the moment Utah because it, too, is in a judicial holding pattern. And she points this out, which I found startling, because what do I know? I only read all the negative stuff in the news. She says, despite all the supposed firepower of the National Rifle Association, well, I think supposed is sort of unnecessary there. They're seriously a formidable foe. Anyway, more than half of all Americans, she points out, now live in states that passed tougher gun control laws after Newtown. More than half of Americans live in states that did respond, however tepidly, in the right direction after that massacre. And then she points this out, which I think is reason for feeling good. She said, the American Legislative Exchange Council, what we know as ALEC, was exposed for shamelessly peddling right-wing measures, including the Stand Your Ground laws, and also legislation that was financed by the fossil fuel industry that requires science teachers to rebut the idea of climate change. She points out that ALEC has lost, in the last year, a reported 400 state legislators who were dues-paying members, has lost 60 corporations that were sponsors, and has lost about a third of its projected income. And she points out that, more importantly, legislators who are peddling ALEC's crap in Harrisburg or in Austin or in Madison or in Trenton, wherever, in whatever state capital, can no longer hide and pretend and be supposedly, what? Well, no, this is wonderful legislation that was suggested by some wonderful people in Washington. No, they can't, because ALEC and its funders have been exposed. And, she points out about there's more progressives now in the Congress than ever before, unabashed progressives. And she ends her piece with this. Currents such as these are not yet a tidal wave. The citizens in motion around the country are not yet a consolidated movement. But 2014 begins not only with change in the air, but also with change taking place on the ground. Washington may continue to be gridlocked. Across the country, however, people are starting to move. And Jared Day, who put this piece up on his Daily News Nuggets, said that he thinks, coming from her specifically, that this is worthy of note because he does not see her as the kind of person one would expect this kind of optimistic appraisal from. It hasn't been her MO for a long, 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 long time. So we shall hope that she proves to be a good seer. Okay. Sorry, trying to read an email at the same time I'm talking to you, and guess what? I can't do it! I can't do it. Also, I have, again, I think this is courtesy of Daily News Nuggets, maybe not. If you guys are all, I hope, getting it now, then you might be well ahead of me on this, and I should probably cease and desist, but I'm going to make an assumption that most people maybe are not reading it with the, the regularity that I do. By the way, I don't usually do this, and I hope Margaret doesn't mind, but, Margaret was, if you'll recall, sort of a regular, she didn't call, she emailed, very terse, often funny, great emails. She was part of our audience and still is, but she emailed me today, and I wanted to share it with you because I think there is strength in community, and perhaps it's an opportunity to give her some support. She said, still listening to the show. You are a great fighter for gay rights and healthcare. Thank you. I have not been responding to your show due to my fight with cancer. Both issues are at the top of my fights. I think she means gay rights, healthcare, and cancer. So please continue. And she signs it Margie. And Margie, we're in your corner. And we have missed you. It's been noted that you haven't been with us as much. And I just wish you all the best, and I know everybody else does as well. So we will keep you in our thoughts, and I'm sure that I can say that, not having the ability to really poll everybody, but I'm quite sure. I'm quite sure. So there was an interesting piece about our short memories. Mine, very short. I have no recollection of this at all. But it's been pointed out that with the disastrous beginning of the Affordable Care website, healthcare.gov, that the Republicans have just jumped. I mean, everybody jumped on it. It was like it came wrapped as the greatest Christmas gift of all time for the Republicans, because it's well known that they've been trying to destroy this law from beginning to end, and they're still not giving up the fight. And the fact they jump on every negative that they can, and they have been very clear that that will not stop during 2014, and in fact may be ratcheted up as one of their major ways to regain the Senate and the White House. So this is something important to remember. We have noted that when Medicare Part D, that's the prescription drug coverage, was rolled out under, and unfunded, by the way, under George W. Bush, that was about just 8 years ago. And it was, I think the launch of that almost makes the launch of Obamacare look like a well-oiled machine. This is the part we forget. When Plan D came in 8 years ago, 6 million previously insured Americans found themselves all of a sudden without coverage. Hundreds of thousands more senior citizens could not get their medications filled. Government computer systems were going kaplooey left and right. Insurance and insurers were confused and weren't sure what to do or what was happening. Pharmacies, too, were flummoxed. It was disastrous. 2 weeks after the launch of Bush's Medicare prescription drug program, many of the sickest and poorest senior citizens in this country still were being either turned away from pharmacies or were being charged ridiculous prices for their drugs. In fact, over a dozen states initiated emergency programs for the elderly in their states. Pennsylvania was one. California was, Illinois was, Ohio, all the states in progressive New England announced that they would, jumped right in. Now they said, we will help any low-income seniors who are having trouble getting or paying drug claims that should have been paid by this new program that the feds rolled out. We will pay. So the state stepped up because it was a disaster. The Bush administration, desperately trying to get this thing under control, actually ordered insurance companies to provide a 30-day supply of any drug that a beneficiary was taking previously. And the Bush administration told the insurance companies that not only did they have to give every senior a 30-day supply, but they could not charge that senior citizen more than $5 for the prescription, no matter what they thought they were able to charge. That was a Republican White House doing that. But it was generally considered a total debacle. Interestingly, with this debacle and with states stepping up to help people in the interim while the Bush administration was trying to get its act together, it should be noted that not one single state in this country thought of suing the Bush administration for acting without congressional authorization by ordering insurance companies to do what he had ordered them to do. And here's the interesting part of this history lesson, this very recent history lesson. Almost to a one, the states that stepped up to keep this thing from collapsing were states run by Democratic governors. This had been a Republican initiative, and it was going down in flames. And yet Democratic governors acted quickly to help save it. Now, seriously, compare that. Compare that to what you see now and the way Republicans respond. Democrats did everything they could to save it, even though many of them had voted against this bill that created Medicare Part D because it was not funded. Hillary Clinton, who was a senator from New York at the time, said the bill was simply awful. She even used the word horrendous. But when it was rolled out as law and it stumbled a bit coming out of the gate, she said this: I voted against it, but once it passed, I determined that I would try to do everything I could to make sure that New Yorkers understood it, could access it, and make the best of it. That's a Democratic response. Contrast that with Republican behavior with the Affordable Care Act. Contrast that. The senator from Wisconsin, Herb Kohl, said to his colleagues, I want you to put aside any partisan thoughts and work together to get this program up and running. He hadn't voted for it either. Now, because Democrats believe in government, the idea of government, the kind of contracts that exist within the act of governance, that once something has been passed, whether you liked it or not, and then is rolled out and clearly becomes a big problem, but it's a big problem that has a huge impact on your constituents, You move heaven and earth to make that faulty thing work, because it is now law. Compare and contrast with Republicans and how they behave when something they didn't vote for passes. They never will acknowledge it. They don't even, when a president they don't like, namely someone from the other party, is elected, they don't even go so far as to acknowledge that president's legitimacy. You saw it with Bill Clinton. You see it with Barack Obama, the Muslim Kenyan. It truly is either their way or the highway. You can't govern a country with an opposition like that. You can govern a country with a loyal opposition, and I would loyalty to a set of rules, of values, of contractual understanding that sometimes you don't get what you want, but that ultimately you're all there together, and it's your job to govern. Not to obfuscate, not to scuttle, not to stand in the way and attempt to dismantle and destroy. The funny thing is, that drug program finally got on its feet with the help of Democrats. And it now enjoys 90% support among American seniors, that benefit. And I got news for the Republicans. You know Obamacare? Well, guys, right around by November and Election Day and all that kind of stuff in 2016, I'm telling you, the Affordable Care Act is going to have numbers like that too. So what are these Republicans good for? What of a positive nature do they bring to the table? If anyone can give me a clue, I'd be most appreciative. Time to take a break. I'll be right back.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Happy New Year from the all-new BergBargains.com. Log on today for the best deals from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, and shows. Sign up for the weekly email update for your chance to win gift cards from Mad Mex, Sonoma, Kaya, Ceviche, Casbah, and NOLA. The all-new BergBargains.com. Pittsburgh's best bargains. BergBargains.com.
Carson thinks he's just an ordinary guy. Then, strange things begin to happen, and he discovers his true identity. He's Awesome Man. Now, the fate of the planet Fatal is in his hands as he battles the likes of the evil Mr. Crouton. Luckily, Awesome Man has a vast array of superpowers, which enables him to get out of every jam. Once the people of Planet Fatal are safe, Dan Carson reverts back to his everyday life. But if danger ever returns to Fatal, Awesome Man is sure to answer the call. Awesome Man is the brainchild of Dale Carter, a hometown boy living in Indianapolis. His love for superheroes inspired him to create the latest and greatest superhero on the scene today, Awesome Man. Get your copy today. Visit Amazing Books at 926 Liberty Avenue, downtown Pittsburgh, or call 412-471-1899. Go online to order at DurantsBookstore.com. All rights reserved. Copyright 2009 by Dale Carter. No part of this book may be reproduced or transmitted in any form by any means, electronic or mechanical, including photocopying, recording, or by any information storage and retrieval system with permission in writing from the publisher or author.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, hey, Margie has written back, and this is interesting. Margie is also gay, and here's what she says. Because we were talking about, these progressive possibilities that are happening with gay marriage and with family leave, actually paid family leave. Margie says this: my partner cannot take time off through my chemo. We're not married. She lives in Pennsylvania. We are not married, so she is not my family by state law. See, there it is. So, here's a couple of long-standing, one in a fight for her life, and the other unable to be with her without, I guess, losing her job and or her income. We are not married, so she is not my family. By state law. And she is not your family because she's not married because of state law, which denies the two of you. Oh, it's just, it's just maddening. Republicans, such giving people, such warm-hearted folk, such empathetic souls, able to imagine life beyond their suburban, tracts. My son was teasing me last night. He always is teasing me, but he said, "So, Mom, when you get much older, are you going to move into a gated community?" And I said, he says that because he knows it annoys me. And I said, I would never, ever live in a place with a gate around it. I don't believe in keeping people out. I don't believe in being afraid. Okay, there is a story on the front page of the New York Times today, which is one of those stories that just rips your guts out. And I can respect, I think, people maybe on the other side of this one, but it really takes a lot of my empathy and understanding to do so, but I do. This is a story of a woman, 33 years old, who, the mother of a child, I think he's a 2-year-old. She lives in Fort Worth, Texas, and in November, she just all of a sudden collapsed in her kitchen from what appeared to be a blood clot in her lungs. It was bang, like that. She was taken to the hospital. Her parents and her husband were informed that she was brain dead. She was dead. There's no sign of life. And so they said their goodbyes to her, and she had, it's amazing to me, even at the young age of 33, had made her preferences known, that she did not want to be kept alive through artificial means. If she was dead, she wanted it to be acknowledged that she was dead. And so they told the doctors at John Peter Smith Hospital intensive care unit that they were honoring her wish not to be on life support and they wanted to say goodbye. And the doctors told them that they would not honor her wish, that she would be tethered to machinery to keep her heart beating because she was 14 weeks pregnant. Now, a 14-week fetus is not viable. Also not known is how long she was lying there on that kitchen floor before she was found, and if she was essentially dead for an hour or two, the odds are the fetus was damaged as well. It is now more than a month later. Her dead body, because death, and you know this other awful, awful story with the poor child who is brain dead, but her parents don't comprehend that, don't understand that. More than a month later, she remains in the ICU on life support, and the fetus is now 20 weeks, still not viable. The hospital says it is only doing what the legislators of Texas have insisted that it do. The law, which was passed in 1989 and then amended 10 years later, states that a person may not withdraw or withhold life-sustaining treatment from a pregnant patient. Now, ethical experts say, hey, read that again. A hospital cannot withdraw or withhold life-sustaining treatment from a pregnant patient. The ethicists say, she's not on life-sustaining treatment. She's dead. You cannot sustain the life of a dead person. So in other words, she's being used as an incubator, right? Here's an expert on healthcare law. If she is dead, I don't see how she can be a patient. And I don't see how we can be talking about treatment options for her. Arthur Kaplan, noted bioethicist. The Texas legislature can't require doctors to do the impossible and try to treat someone who's dead. I don't think they intended this statute the way the hospital is interpreting it. But the folks who don't see abortion ever as something you can do say this, quote, the unborn child should be recognized as a separate person. Even if she is brain dead, I favor keeping treatments going to allow the child to continue to survive. And her family, her husband, who is the father of the fetus, he wants his wife to be buried. Now you can think that's not the decision I would make, but isn't it his? Isn't it his when you don't have a viable fetus? And they're essentially macabrely keeping his dead wife in some state of literal limbo to bring a child into the world. It is a horrific situation. But it doesn't seem to me that this is a kind of thing where hospital administrators and legislators should be able to trump the wishes of the woman herself and her family. Another professor of ethics at the University of Texas Medical School said, there were some known examples of fetuses having been kept alive while a terminally ill or brain-dead mother was on a respirator. But in every case, those steps were in line with the family's wishes. Oh, didn't know if you were following that story, but it's one of those stories that just rips your heart out and perhaps makes you angry. Okay, well, that's it. Sorry to leave on such a down note, but it certainly is food for thought. Tomorrow, I think Tom Sokolowski rejoins us. I'll be very happy to see him in this new year. And on Friday, we'll talk to Chris Potter. So good things ahead. Is warming up, and have a great day.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.